Back before everybody's life was tied to an algorithm and thousands of filtered selfies, I downloaded Plenty of Fish. That was the app of the moment. Janky interface, weird bios, lots of lonely people swimming in the same dirty water I'd been living. In the same town for 15 years by then, I dated off and on nothing too. Serious, most of my other friends were already settling down, but I personally wasn't in a hurry. I wasn't the guy with the commitment issues. It just didn't feel like going backwards. No, the town was too small for second chances. I've gone through most of the local matches over a few months' time. Teachers, waitresses, baristas, single moms, gym rats, you name it, nothing really stuck for me. Some first dates, a couple of second ones, and a lot of awkward goodbyes in dim-lighted parking lots. But I kept that ID, like that novelty, the idea that maybe the right person was only a few clicks away. Then one night, after a long shift at my shop, I opened the app out of boredom and damn near dropped my phone. Lisa, I hadn't seen her name before, let alone her face in over 3 years. When we dated, she was different, softer, shy, never wore makeup, never partied much, always talking about getting out of town. We fizzled. Naturalino, big drama, just time. But this Lisa, she looked wild. Her hair was cut short, dyed some kind of blood red with black accents, hot stuff to me. She had a half-sleeve tattoo on her right arm, piercings through her nose and lip, and a new look in her eyes. Confidence, maybe, either. Waish did not look like the girl who used to sit in my passenger seat, humming along to old Matchbox 20 songs. I almost didn't swipe, but curiosity got the better of me. I matched her within 5 minutes. She'd messaged, "Didn't expect to see you here," she wrote, followed by a laughing emoji, and then, "You look good." We caught up really quickly. She said she was back in town just for a little while. Wouldn't say where she'd been, but hinted at a big changes. New energy, a new reinvented self. I didn't bribe too much, and she asked if I wanted to grab a drink at the Millard, our old haunt. I agreed. Before I could even second guess it, we set the date for Thursday. Gave me 3 days to get my head on straight. I should have known something wasn't right when she only messaged me between midnight and 4:00. But honestly, I just thought she worked maybe this odd job that kept her free time at these odd hours. Maybe nursing or something. So Thursday night came quicker than I really expected it, till I pulled into the Millard's parking lot at 7:45, 10 minutes. Early, heart thudding in this way fatuously surprised me. It had been years since I saw Lisa, and despite the strangeness of our messages, I was curious. I'd thrown on a clean button-up and nice jeans, even cloned myself up, which I hadn't done for a date in ages now. Part of me wanted this to be good. The other part, the one that I was ignoring, was already uneasy part of me. Really didn't care how the day went. I just wanted Lisa to be impressed. Remember, no going backwards for me. She was already there when I walked in, seated at the far end of the bar, same red hair as the photos, though now it looked a little brittle, fried at thin's, like she had dyed it far too much. Her black eyeliner was smeared, and though she'd clearly dressed up with tight jeans, combat boots, and some kind of mesh top, there was a, how do I say this, a grime to her, something you could almost smell from across the room. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, but when she saw me, she smiled, lit up like nothing was wrong. Big toothy grin jumped up and hugged me. Her skin felt clammy against mine, and her breath hit my neck like mild. Do I forced a grin and sat down. "You look the same," she said, eye scanning me like she was reading headlines off my face. "But better. Look at you, all grown up." She pinched my cheek like a grandmother. Thanks," I said, unsure how to take that you look different, but in a good way. She laughed. It was loud and sharp and out of place. "Yeah, I've been through a few things, new cities, new friends. I'm on a whole new frequency now." So then we ordered some drinks. She got a tequila soda double, and I just got a beer. We started talking, but it wasn't long before her sentences started kind of fraying at the ends. 1 second she'd be telling me a story about a trip to Austin, and then the next she'd be murmuring something about the moon. being as some kind of surveillance device. Elod at first thought she was joking with me, but she wasn't. She kept scratching at her arms, her neck, even the sides of her face, not like an itch though, like she was trying to peel something off her eyes. Would immediately dirt toward every person that walked in, watching them like a cat watching birds. Twice she leaned in close and asked if I recognized anybody in the bar, like we were being watched, and I just kind of played dumb. You work nights or something? I asked her, trying to shift things back to normal. You only message me like in the middle of the night. She leaned closer, eyes wide, pupils huge. Sleep is only a tool, you can opt out. I only rest when I black out. That's how they stop watching. I nodded slowly and took a long drink from my beer. By the second round, she excused herself to the bathroom. 10 minutes passed, and 15, I figured. She was doing something in there, probably snorting something based on the way her jaw kept twitching and how her nose had started to drip immense. Later, she came back like nothing had happened, sat down, finished her drink in one pull, and immediately ordered another. I was not about to match her pace. You don't trust me, do you? She asked it suddenly out of nowhere, grinning wide. Do you think I'm just some spun-up, cooked-up girl? Huh, don't worry, I'm not using the bad stuff anymore. Just maintenance stuff to keep my aura clean. Lisa, are you doing okay? Her face froze for a second, then twisted. What kind of question is that? I just mean, are you all right? You've changed a lot, and I'm just wondering if you're in a good place. She didn't answer. Instead, she got up and went straight to the bathroom. Again, I sat there staring at my half-drained pint, wondering how the hell to leave without making a scene. The bartender, who looked maybe 22 and clearly tired of our table, shot me this look like, good luck, buddy. When Lisa came back, she was grinning again, but her lipstick was smeared and there was a little blood on her nose. I missed you, you know, she said. No, her voice was a little slow and syrupy, like she was underwater. They didn't want me to contact you, though. Said you're on their side. Who's they? She laughed at you. No, the handlers, the agents, everybody from back then. Lisa, what are you talking about? She didn't answer me. Instead, she reached out and touched my hand. Her skin was freezing in. There was dirt caked underneath her nails. I pulled away, trying to remain calm, but my brain was already shifting into escape mode. I think I'm going to head out soon. Igot, work early in the morning. No, she said, eyes wide. We just got started. Come on, let's go back to your place. I haven't seen it in forever. Maybe I'll spend the night. Lisa, I don't think that's a good idea. Her smile quickly evaporated. It just doesn't feel right to me. She blinked, her head tilted with genuine infusion, and without warning, she grabbed her drink and hurled it into my face. Cold liquid splashed over my shirt into my eyes, and the glass bounced off my forehead before it shattered on the bar beside. Gasps erupted from nearby tables. You're one of them, she screamed at me. You set me up. This was a trap, wasn't it? You motherfucker. Before I could say anything or react again, she lunged at me, scratching my face, her nails catching skin. I shoved her off instinctively and stood up, blood now dripping down my cheek. She was still screaming in my face, still pointing, accusing me of things I didn't even understand. Spying, bugging her phone, poisoning her drinks. People were staring. The bartender grabbed the phone and Lisa stumbled back, knocking over the bar stool. I dug in my wallet and threw down cash for the bill and said, I'm really sorry to the staff, before bolting out the door. I heard her behind me screaming something about drones, about light beams, about betrayal, but her voice grew faintest. I hit the parking lot running. I got in my truck and slammed the door, locking in immediately. Out of reflex, my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my keys. Lisa burst out of the bar, not 10 seconds later, barefoot, now one boot missing, mascara streaming down her face like war paint. She was screaming my name, pounding at the air, and ran straight at the vehicle, then stumbled, caught her foot on the curb, and face planted in the gravel. She didn't get up. I fired up the engine, backed up fast, and sprayed gravel behind me. I watched her roll over and try to sit up, reaching out toward the red glow of my brake lights. I watched her for one beat longer, just to be sure she wasn't seriously hurt, then peeled off down the road, eyes on my rear view. The next hour was a complete blur. I went straight home, locked the door behind me, and turned off every light in my house. My heart had not slowed down. The scratches on my face stung, and there was still tequila in my eyes. But it wasn't the pain that kept me pacing the living room. It was fear, the weirdness, dread that wasn't some just bad date. That was somebody who'd gone off the rails completely. That was somebody used to love, hollowed out, and filled with something else entirely. And she knew where I lived. I blocked her number, deleted the app, and logged out of everything that night. I left the lights on, slept with my pocket knife next to the bed, not because I thought she would come back, but because for a while I wasn't sure what she was really capable of. When I woke up the next morning, there were no calls, no messages, no weird notes taped to the door, just met with silence, and thank God I never saw her again. Sometimes I'll think back to that nightry to figure out exactly where she went wrong. Was it? It had to be drugs, obviously paranoia too, but there was something else behind her eyes, something that looked practiced predatory. Even Shet knew how to act normal, but didn't remember why it mattered. Made me wonder how much of it was an actual act to what their true intentions were. I don't date anymore, not from the apps and not from setups. If I can't look somebody in the eye and feel a pulse of something real, something human, I just walk the other way. Because, well, Lisa taught me that monsters don't live under your bed. Sometimes they click on you and match with you. Dating apps ruined my life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but there's not a better way to say it. I used to laugh when people said stuff like, "Oh, you're just bad at picking women," or "You're looking in the wrong place, man." Maybe I was, or maybe I just got super unlucky. Either way, if I'd never downloaded that app, I wouldn't be where I am now. I used to walk. I used to run. I used to lift my goddamn arms. I grew up in a mid-sized town in the Midwest. Nothing fancy, a working-class place with hard winters and the same people cycling through threesome bars every single weekend. I had a solid group of friends, the guys I'd met in high school or at the job site over the years. Some drifted, others joined, and our group turned into this weird little family of misfits who just stuck together. We got each other jobs, celebrated one another's birthdays, sat around fires, and bitched about everything under the sun. The type of friendships that really make you feel safe, even when nothing else in life really is. A few of us even hooked up with the same women at different times. Missy. Yeah, I know, but that's the small town life. Eventually, a few people got married, had kids, and that's how I ended up with Sherry. We saw one another through a lot of mutual social circles, but didn't actually connect until well linked on a dating app. She was around a lot, quiet at first, but funny when she loosened up. Had a kid, a little girl named Emma, 5 years old. When we met, I never thought I'd end up dating somebody with a kid, but Sherry just had this sweetness to her, and Emma was easy to love too. We clicked, started slow, just meeting for drinks, then weekends together. A few months in, I started staying over, and by the end of the year I was living there full time. We weren't perfect by any means. Sherry had her demons. Everybody knew she used to have a problem, pills mostly, but there were stories about the harder stuff too. But when we got together, she was clean, and I saw the effort that she was putting, and I saw the way she tried. So I threw myself in, tried to be the man that she needed. I didn't know back then how fast it could all fall apart. Thought things got real between me and Sherry quickly. It wasn't just the honeymoon phase or the kid needing a male role model. I genuinely felt like I belonged there. I'd wake up early, get Emma ready for school when Sherry was dragging pickup, extra shifts to help cover rent, groceries, daycare. Whatever, we weren't rich, but we had enough love, laughter, enough hope to make it feel like we really had a future together. Sherry would have good days on those. She'd clean the whole place, cook dinner from scratch, read to Emma, until they both would nod off. But when the bad days hit, it was like a switch got flipped immediately. She'd disappear in the bathroom for an hour, come out with glassy eyes and slurred words. I wasn't stupid, I knew the signs, I just didn't want to believe it. I confronted her a few times, and she'd swear up and down. She wasn't using, said she was tired, overwhelmed, depressed. And I wanted to believe her. Emma loved her mother more than anything, and I wasn't ready to break the only stable thing that poor little girl had. But when she stopped going to her support meetings and started running errands for hours and hours, and lost weight as she didn't have to lose, I got worried, real worried. Our friends even noticed it too. That tight-knit group that I told you about, some of them distanced themselves and some of them didn't. One in particular didn't. Kev was around the group for years, never really close always, kind of like on the fringe of it, greasy hair, twitchy hands, that hollow attic look that you get when you burn through everything but the nerve endings. We all knew what he was into: heroin, mostly, sometimes crack too, the kind of guy who'd show up uninvited and stay for far too long. I told sure to keep her distance. She agreed, which was a lie. One Thursday, I got off work early, long day. I just wanted to get home, maybe take Emma out for some ice cream. When I turned onto our street, I saw cars in the driveway, ones that I didn't recognize, an old Civic with one door, primer gray, some beat up old truck with cracked windshields, and my stomach dropped immediately. I walked in, and the living room smelled like burnt plastic and body odor. Kev was there, and this other guy that I didn't know, tall, lanky, pale. Ashel looked like a walking staph infection. They were posted up on the couch, eyes low and scratching at their arms. Sherry slumped between them. Her pupils were blown out, mouth hanging open, like she didn't even know where she was. Are you kidding me? I said, standing in the doorway. Kev looked up at like I interrupted some kind of game. Yo, chill, she called us. Called. You know she's trying to stay clean. You know there's a kid Arash wanted a party. Man, ain't my job to babysit. I turned to Sherry, who looked up at me with that empty smile. I just needed a hit, she whispered. And he snapped. I didn't give if they were high. I didn't care if they got violent with me. I started shouting, pacing, grabbing my shit. I went to Emma's room, and thank God she wasn't there. She was at her dad's that night. I packed her clothes anyway, mine too. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. Stepped into our bedroom, found the blankets, torn up clothes on the floor, and wrappers. Condoms, two of them. He stood there staring at them like they might dissolve if I looked long enough, but they didn't. They were real. I smelled the room again, a mix of sweat and chemicals, and I knew what had happened in there, eh? Walked back into the living room. My hands were shaking. You let them. While you were high in our bed, while your daughter's toys are 5 feet awake. Evan laughed. The other guy didn't even look up. Sherry just started crying. Her face was twitching. It was a real sight, oh behold, one that was now burned in my memory. I lost it. I walked straight over and punched Kevin's friend in the face, dropped him right there on the couch. He hit the floor hard and started moaning. Kevin immediately stood up. You sure you want to do this? I didn't say anything. I swung again. Kev ducked and landed a hook to my jaw that spun me halfway around, then another hit to the gut. Then he grabbed me, some word wrestler grip, lifted me clean off the ground. I couldn't even scream before my back hit the floor. I heard a cracking, saw white, and that's it. No pain at first, just the sound of something giving in. Then everything went cold. Constanti tried to move my legs. Nothing. I tried to speak. Nothing. My mouth wouldn't even work. I could only cry and groany, laid there on the living floor, while those 3 losers huddled up in the corner, whispering to each other. She's going to call someone, dude, the tall one said. Kev shook his head. Nah, we're getting him out of here. The next thing I know, I'm being dragged by my armpits, slammed into the back seat of Onuf. The car's my head bounced off the door frame, and I couldn't even flinch. I thought they were going to kill me, but they didn't. They dumped me in the middle of nowhere, a stretch of road out, by the quarry with nothing but dirt and silence in. Then they just left the stars above me. Looked like they were behind glass everything else. Was dirt cold darkness. It felt like I was inside me body. I couldn't move. I couldn't shout. I just laid there, every breath a scratching my throat every minute. A new level of terror. I pissed myself at some point after midnight multiple times I couldn't feel it, but I smelled it. I cried even without making a soundy, don't know why. Sherry called the ambulance. Maybe the high wore off and reality kicked in. Maybe she thought I was already dead and panicked whatever the reason. I heard the tires on gravel. Hours later saw red and blue lights flickering through the trees that sounded. Door slamming, boots on dirt, someone shouting. I got a pulse. I still hear all that in my dreams. I spent 3 months inside this trauma center, 2 years in rehab facility. I had to learn how to swallow again, how to sit up, how to make a fist. I still can't walk, my legs air meat with bones inside. I have a caregiver who wipes my ass and adjusts my feeding to bay. Too weak to eat solid food. I'm 38. I never saw Sherry again. Never saw Kev. Never got to say goodbye to Emma. I know some people might hear this and think I'm blaming the apps. I'm not entirely, at least. But I do blame them for what they gave me access to. I blame how easy it is to mistake a person's profile for who they really are. I blamed the illusion of connection. I thought I was building a life. What I built was a who's on gasoline, then handed the matches to anybody who walked right by. So yeah, dating apps ruined my life. And not because I used them wrong, but because I used them at all. If I just waited, if I just let life happen the old-fashioned way, if I hadn't already swiped right on somebody. I knew far too well I wouldn't be sitting here looking out this window praying every night that that little girl, the only true innocent part of this whole thing, made a tout okay, be able to stand and walk and go back to work, but that will never happen. For me, I don't think I'll even live to see the age of 40. We've been married 25 years now, me and Addison, most days. I still love her, and I mean that the way people who've been through some together say it, because, well, love gets heavier with time, and sometimes it will leave a mark. We're different back. Then not wild exactly, but curious, still young enough to want more, and still enough to go looking for it in places that we clearly didn't belong. The apps were just starting to get big around 2010, not the slick corporate ones that you see today. These were rough around the edges, anonymous, half the profiles fake, half people worse than that. But we weren't looking for true love. We were looking for somebody to well join you as just a third, a little excitement, a little spark, something to shake loose the dust that had settled over Thebedrew. We had talked about it now for months before we even downloaded anything. Hell, Addie was the one who first said it out loud. What if we tried inviting somebody in? She said to me one night while folding laundry just once. It scared the hell out of me, but it also kind of excited me too. She looked good back then, real good, and we still had that heat. We just wanted to aim it at somewhere new. I guess we went slow, made share profiles, sent messages together, set rules, talked through every little thing. We weren't the only ones doing it either. It turns out there's a whole damn world of people looking for what we're looking for. We met few folks, some couples, some singles, but most fizzled out pretty quickly. Bad chemistry, too pushy, too weird. And a couple of times we came close, but we always backed off at the last minute. And then came Chris. He wasn't like the rest. He was calm and confident, didn't push. He made Addie laugh, which was rare. He had these dimples where he smiled, and this easy way off talking to you, like everything he said had already been thought through. Addie told me he seemed safe, and I guess I did agree with her. He messaged a lot, but never too much. Knew how to flirt, but not in a way that made it feel cheap or copy and pasted. So we ended up making a plan Friday. Night cheap motel off the highway, one drink, and then see where the night goes and back now. I wish to hell we would have never messaged that man back. Spent the whole week thinking about it. Had he bought this new lingerie set online in some strappy black thing that came in a box, small enough that I thought we might lose it. She giggled when she opened it up, held it up to Thelight like she was 20 years old again. I haven't seen her that excited in a long time. I tried to match her mood, but deep down I had this knot in my stomach that never fully went away. I chalked it up to nerves first. Always feel like that. Righteous messaged us the night before, just a key. Quick check-in, he asked us what motel we'd pick, so we could plan for his arrival time. Said he'd had a last-minute schedule shift, but wanted to make sure that everything lined up. We planned Tommy at the Sand. View Inn. I told him no hesitation, and didn't think twice. I just texted to him. Friday came. We dropped out the kids at my brother's place, told him that we were taking a little station just to unwind. He laughed and wished us luck. We got to the motel around 7 o'clock. It wasn't a dump, but it wasn't nice either. Beige walls, floral bedspread, dim bathroom light that was buzzing. We brought down our drinks and a Bluetooth speaker and candles to set the mood. Addie disappeared into the bathroom to change and do her makupi, sat on the edge of the bed sipping whiskey, trying to calm my nerves. When she came out, I forgot how to breathe. That lingerie didn't hide a damn thing, and she looked better than she had in years. Her eyes were sparkling and she looked alive. By 8:30, we started to wonder if he'd flaked. That's how most of these stories go. We figure big plans and cold feet. We were about to start our own party without him, and then there was a knock. 3 short raps. Addie froze mid-laugh. I stood up and looked through the peephole. It was him, black leather jacket, clean shaven, that same calm face. I opened the door and he smiled at Maho. I'm not too late. We let him in, poured a few drinks. He complimented Addie and said she looked amazing. She blushed, and for a few minutes it felt like a real date. We talked about some music, movies. Evan shared a few dumb stories of our first few months of marriage. Chris was pretty smooth and not sleazy. He laughed in therapy places, made eye contact, leaned in when he talked, but not too close. About 30 minutes in, he made this strange request. Hey, he said, swirling the ice in his glass. This might be a little weird, but would you guys mind getting undressed first? I'm a little shy, and it helps me feel comfortable if I'm not the first one. Addie looked over at me, and I gave her tiniest shrug. We've talked about this before. We knew things could get awkward, especially that first time. I said, sure, that's not a problem. We stood up, a little drunk by then, and started stripping down. Nothing sexy about it, just quick and casual. Addie unhooked her bra and tossed it onto the air. I kicked my pants aside. We were now both naked, standing by the foot of the bed, grinning like teenagers caught doing something bad. Chris stood up, and then for a second, I thought he was going to undress too. Instead, he reached into the inside of his jacket and pulled out a handgun. It didn't look like a movie gun. It looked real, and it looked heavy. All right, he said, voice super steady. Toss everything into that pillowcase. I froze. Addie screamed once like she was trying to hold it in and couldn't help it. Chris didn't even flinch. He gestured with a gun. Julie, phones, wallet, whatever you've got, put it in that pillowcase. Addie started crying and whispering, oh my God, over and over like a chant. I reached for the pillowcase and started filling it. Her necklace, her wedding ring, the bracelet she got from her mother, my wallet, my watch, my phone, her phone, $200 in cash, even her shoes, designer heels that she bought for this night in particular. He stayed calm the whole time, didn't shout, didn't rush me, and for some reason that scared me more than anything. He had obviously done this before, or thought about it long enough that he looked like had. When the pillowcase was full, he backed up towards the door. I really liked you guys, he said. You seem cool, but this is just easier than working for it. He opened up the door, stepped into the hall, and was gone. 80 collapsed onto the bed, curling up, shaking. I stood there still naked, still holding that empty whiskey glass. My heart was slamming so hard, I thought it was going to burst. I ran to the door, looked out, and of course the hall was empty. He was gone. I went to the window to see if I could catch his car, watching the dark parking lot and almost half expecting him to come back and shoot us both, for Fawnette was still crying. She'd wrapped herself up in that comforter, sitting against the headboard with her knees pulled up, shaking like she was freezingy, didn't know what to do. I felt like I've been skinned alive. Our phone was gone. Everything was gone. I pulled the modal phone off the cradle and tried the front desk, but when he answered, I called again. Nothing. Finally, I got somebody, some half-asleep kid who barely even knew what to say. When I told him we'd been robbed, he said he'd look around the lot and then hung up on me. I didn't wait. I threw on what little I had, wrapped Addie in a robe, and we left with nothing but car keys. And shame she didn't speak that whole ride home, just stared out the window. When we got to the house, she went straight to the bedroom and locked the door. I heard the shower running for at least an hour. We never called the cops. I wanted to. I thought about it daily. But how do you tell someone that you willingly got naked in a motel room with a man that you met online, then handed him every valuable you own because he asked you to, because you wanted something different and something fun? It wasn't just the embarrassment. It was the look on her face that night, Addie, and I never talked about it again. We deleted the apps, shut down the accounts, and threw away the burner phones. We told our friends that we'd robbed on vacation and left the rest of the story to be super vague, but it continued to follow us. You don't really bounce back from something like that. You just kind of absorb it. Like a crack in the drywall, you cover with a picture frame for obvious reasons. Don't mess around with drastic lifestyle changes anymore. We're just happy we still have Onina there. I've been on the dating apps for over a decade now, off and on mostly Tinder, sometimes Bumble. But I've even dipped into the weirder stuff when the mood struck. I wouldn't say I was ever chasing love. I guess I was really just chasing chows. And if you've been in the game long enough, you know what I mean. The apps are just front row seats to the wildest theater you could ever watch. Drama, desperation, cheating, thirst traps, people looking for hookups, fights, revenge, stalkers, setups. There's no rules, no referees, just profiles and swipes. And honestly, I live for it. I've always been a social guy, fast talker. Decently looking, played ball in high school, knew how to keep a girl laughing over drinks. I've never had trouble getting dates, but something about the apps made it all more electric. You could go from matching with a girl to seeing her in a bathroom in under an hour. And if it didn't work out, you just started over, swipe, match, message, repeat. The thrill of it wasn't just in the dates itself, it was the stories that came with it. And man, you loved the stories. You'd see all kinds girls you haven't thought about since high school, now divorced and back on the scene. Co-workers pretending they didn't recognize you, even lives of guys you know using fake names and different hair colors, trying to keep things quiet. And that's what really pulled me in, not the chase, but the mystery behind each and every match. Who were they really? And because I'm writing this and you're hearing it, that's what got me in trouble. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't setting out to destroy anything or anyone. But when I saw my buddy's girlfriend pop up on Tinder, it was like watching a car drift into oncoming traffic. Her name was different, Katie or something dumb like that, but her photos were full face clear as day taken around town, her dog, her car, same smile. I've been over to their apartment before. I've eaten dinner with them. And no, here, she was looking for side action while my friend sat at home, probably playing Call of Duty. I should have swiped left, but I didn't. I matched with her. I didn't expect to match back, but it did within the hour. And that's when I started wondering if this was really her. Maybe it was one of those fake accounts, right? A stolen photo dump, some dude catfishing horny guys in town for laughs, or PayPal scams. But I kept staring at the profile. The details added up too well. The car in one photo I'd seen her driving at the dog that was her mud-the apartment. Wall in the background, same paint job that I'd seen when I helped my buddy move in a couch last summer. Still, I couldn't believe it. It was easier to think that it was some copycat. I scrolled through the rest of her pic string to convince myself. The nose looked different. The jawline didn't quite look the same. But deep down, I knew the first message was simply just, hey. With a smiley face, I stared for a long time. I almost unmatched right then and there. But something in me, I guess it wasn't pride or anger. It was curiosity, wanted to know who this really was. So I messaged back saying, hey, do we know each other? You look kind of familiar. She replied a quick, LOL. No, I don't think so, new account smiley face. She played dumb like I was a stranger, and it was eerie reading that I knew she knew how I'd sat across the table from her on double dates. We were in some photos together. For Christ's sake, so I told myself, maybe it was her friend using her phone, or maybe her profile got hacked, but her typing style, the emojis, it really felt like her. We talked on and off for 2 days, just basic stuff. What do you do? What kind of music do you like? I kind of wanted to test how far she'd actually take this act. So I pushed a little, said, I'd love to meet up, maybe grab coffee or something casual. And she agreed instantly. Want to meet up at the food court Wednesday? She said. There's a spot by the pretzel stand. So I agreed. That whole day, I felt off, like I'd eaten something that didn't sit right with me. I didn't tell anybody, not my roommates, not my coworkers. I wanted the truth, but he didn't want the fallout until I had it in my hand. I drove to the mall, parked in the back lot, walked through the sliding glass doors and into the food court, and just waited. I was early, she wasn't. I sat down, ordered a drink, just to have something in front of me, and watched the crowd, families, teens, workers, on break, a few familiar faces that I hoped didn't see me. Then she came in from the JCPenney side, and it was her jeans, cropped hoodie. No makeup, just walking like nothing was out of the ordinary. Her hair was in a messy ponytail. She spotted me, and I watched her face change in real time and went from casual to dangerous. Like, how dare I be in public? She stood up and said her name. She turned red. Hey, I said, so what the hell is going on? She blinked hard and then crossed her arms. What are you doing here? You mashed with me. Was this a setup? I thought you were somebody else at first, but it's obviously you. Her eyes darted around. This is a setup, she said. You're making moves on. You followed me here. What? I stepped back like she slapped me. Are you serious right now? You're the one with the profile. I thought it was fake, so I matched it, just to see. Then you started messing me, like you didn't even know who I was. You're harassing me, she said louder. You're stalking me. Heads turned. People in line at Panda Express looked over at us. A mall cop on the other end of the food court had already leaned off his post, watching us. Now I shook my head, laughing. Once, because I didn't know what else to do. You're the one cheating on my friend, I said. You're on Tinder while you're living with him. I thought this was a scam, but it's actually you. You brought me here. She pulled out her phone, hand trembling. I'm calling him right now, he raised. My hands. Good, call him. Let's talk this out. She swiped through apps. Fast, did something that caught me completely off guard. She deleted Tinder right there, just held the icon. Clicked the little X, and poof, it was gone. Then she put the phone to her ear. Hey, she said, voice suddenly soft. You need to come down here. It's, he's here. Yeah, Greg, he followed me. He's saying weird stuff to me. That was the start of the avalanche. 20 minutes later, I had 5 or 6 guys surrounding me, half of them I'd known for years. Guy I've played poker with, drank with, gone to parties with. They shoved me around, a little puffed up, throwing out stuff like, why are you stalking people for Greg? And bro, this ain't right. I tried to explain, but the more I talked, the crazier it sounded. She matched with me. I said I thought it was fake at first. I wanted to find out what it actually was. She agreed to meet. I didn't stalk anybody. I just wanted to figure out if this was Actually, real nobody listened, though. She stood back, arms folded, doing this wounded act like I was some predator who climbed out of a storm drain to follow her to the food court itself. I wanted to scream, then one guy, a quieter friend, pulled me aside. He waited till the others were occupied and leaned in and said, "She's lying. Watch has got a real Tinder account. I matched with her last week, so did a few of the other guys here. Everybody knows cheats. It's kind of this running joke." I stared back at him. "You didn't do anything wrong, man," he said. "You just exposed it in public." And then after that, everybody just kind of drifted off. The tension dissolved the way it does after a fight, and never really kicks up. Guys backed away, all puffed up, but clearly unsure. Now she stormed off with two of them trailing behind her still, playing that victim card phone to her ear. I stood there in the middle of the food court, sweating through my shirt, staring at half-melted smoothies that I didn't even want anymore. The guy who pulled me aside gave me this look like, "Sorry, man," then turned and followed the group away. And that was that. I didn't talk to my friend, the boyfriend, after that. Still haven't. I didn't know if he even heard the full story. Maybe she spun it into something uglier. Maybe he didn't want to believe it, that what was right in front of him. Or maybe he knew along and just didn't want it to be confirmed. Denial is one hell of a drug when you're in love with somebody who's using everybody else around her. I ended up deleting my dating apps that night too. All of them, not because I was ashamed, but because the thrill was now gone. Whatever fun I used to have and the drama and the hookups had now been drained out into one humiliating afternoon. I'd spent years watching the cows swimming in it like it was a game to me, but I never thought I'd get pulled in by somebody. I actually knew somebody knew me. I'm still tight with most of the friend group. None of them blamed me once Thetist had actually settled. In fact, more than a few reached out afterwards to say they had similar run-ins with her hookups behind their buddies' back. Secret accounts, weird accusations. When things got too real, it turns out I hadn't stumbled into anything new. I'd just been the dumb one enough to shine a light on it, especially in public. I think the worst part, if I could go back, I wouldn't really change much. Curiosity got me here, yeah, but it also told me a lot about who people really are.